Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to another session of MongoDB. Well, as always, I'll give you a minute to mark your attendance. Everyone, please mark your attendance. Hello, good evening. Good evening, Amit. Please mark your attendance. Subhadeep, चालू हो चुका है. Mark करिए. सक्षम, साइनाथ, शिवम, hi. प्रतीक्षा, good evening. विशाल, नमस्ते. उत्कर्ष. Guys, attendance mark करिए. Please mark your attendance. As always, the link is the same. The link will be available to you after today's class, Rahul. Don't worry. Good evening. Have you guys marked your attendance? Let me know when you mark your attendance. Already marked. Thank you, Subhadeep. Very good. Fantastic. I'm good, Shubham. Thank you. So you guys can see my screen, right? This is what we are going to do today. Today, you are going to be a programmer. Today, you will be writing code in Node.js and Mongoose. Okay, that answers your question also, Subhadeep and Rahul. Well, let's get started. So, what do we have in agenda today? We'll create a new database called library. We'll create 3 collections in it. Let's get started. Let's fire up our MongoDB or Compass. Let's go to let's open our shell. Let's create a database called library. You can name it whatever you want. आज का देख लेते हैं पहले सुबोदीप. Let's talk about today. So, library and let's create some collections as well. Okay, we already had the collection codes. Let me see where these are. Okay, there you go. So we will be creating 3 collections: books, authors, and borrowers. Let me do that very quickly. db dot create collection. Inside that, so what are we doing? We are creating an ID, title, an ISBN, the publisher's name, publication date, genre, author ID. This will be coming from another collection. Oh, so sorry. One second. यहाँ तो हमें नाम लिखना है ना. Okay, so db.collection, this will be books. Let's create another one. Let's create author. Authors. And one more, borrowers. So we have created 3 collections: authors, books, and borrowers. Books, people who write them, the author, and people who rent them, the borrowers. Books, जो उन्हें लिखते हैं वो, और जो उन्हें किराए पे लेते हैं वो, borrowers. We have 3 collections. What are we doing today is we are today moving out from MongoDB Compass and moving in to programming. Not that much, a little. Yes, Subramaniam, if you got the files which said queries, there were some queries which you had to do by yourself. Yashwant, the document link is in the description. Please check the description. So today we have done these 3 collections. We have created a database, and inside that we have created 3 collections. That is it for now. Next what? Now let's move out of MongoDB Compass and let's move into Node. Let's move into the real world now. So what we have to do, we have to establish a connection between Node.js application and MongoDB. For the last 4 days, you are only were into MongoDB. So what I'm doing is I'm going into the tool called Visual Studio Code. If you have Notepad, that will also do. Notepad++, Atom, VS Code, any other tool, any other IDE will do. VS Code is the world's most used, so we are using VS Code. You need to open up the terminal. How can you do that? If you go into terminal and new terminal, this is what is called as the terminal. Now, I'm writing a command called npm init y, npm init -y. This will start my node application. npm init -y will start my node application. When this is done, if you cross it out, if you cut it out, you can see a file named package.json. Whatever is in it, you don't have to modify it, just let it be. This is the file. Although I'm writing one line in it, just one line, what that will be, type module. I have written just one line, everything else was pre-written. What are we doing here? We are firing our Node.js. After you are done with this line, close it. There you go, nothing else. Then let me create a file. I am naming it index.js. That can be named absolutely anything. Naam kuch bhi ho sakta hai. Also, I am creating 3 folders: controllers, models, routes. क्या किया हमने? We created a file index.js. We created 3 folders: controllers, models, and routes. Of course, the name can be absolutely anything. Naming does not matter. What are we doing? Once again, MongoDB, which we already have, and we just created a node application. We are trying to establish a connection between them. For this to happen, we need to install these 3 things. Actually, we already have Node, so we need these 2 things. If we again open the terminal, right? Yes, exactly, Subodip. That is why I write type module, yes. Yes, Subodip, don't worry, I'm going to do that only. CLS, the same command as you have used in Mongo, works here as well. npmi okay, keyboard died once again. npmi mongodb space mongoose. Okay, let's also install this. So I've installed 3 package mongodb mongoose.env. It's .env, Subodip. We just did that. Thank you. What we have done, we have installed these and as well as this. We have also created index.js. Let's create a file called .env. Let's create a file called .env. Yes, this name has to be exactly like this, .env. Nothing is written in both of these files. Well, we will write it now. What are we doing? We are creating our very own, our very first server, Node.js server. that we will do in our index.js. We have already done this. To establish a connection between Node and MongoDB, you need a Node server. That is what I'm going to do here. Now I'm going to write some lines. Please pay attention. Oh, we did not. Okay, we did not install Express. Okay, my mistake. Let's again go to terminal. We needed to install one thing. We forgot about it. npmi express. So we installed 4 to 5 things. Let me show you what we installed. We installed these 4 packages. We first installed MongoDB mongoose.env, and then we installed Express as well. Right. Well, now we are finally ready. Let's create our very first server. Don't worry if you are new to Node. This code is pretty standard. Not writing much, just I have written 4 lines. I'm telling my node use Express, giving a short name to the Express server, which is app. So I'll be using app from here on. I'm declaring a variable port, and the value is 8080. What I'm doing is app.listen. This is what will start our node server. App.listen. We are telling our node to keep listening for any incoming request at this port, which is 8080. If you are new to Node, don't worry, just be with me. I'll explain each and every line that I'm writing. Now, if you remember, I also created an env or .env. .env file is like a protector of your secrets. Port, which is 8080. I do not want the world to know on which port my server is running. Any such information that you want to keep a secret from the world, you hide it in a .env. What I'm saying is, I'll go to my file, I'll write the variable name here, port, and a value. Make sure no spaces are allowed in env, no semicolon or anything, just the variable equals and its value, even no quotes are allowed, nothing at all. Because now I have put up my port in env, I want to use it from the env. I'll do first this import. If you remember, we installed .env. I'm going to use that .env/config, install the configuration from .env library. Instead of writing 8080 in plain sight, we will do something like this. Process.env is Node's way of using variables from env file. Process.env dot the variable name, which was port. Because the variable was port here, that is why I'm using port. This name can be absolutely anything. This is what is coming from the env file. This name can be absolutely anything. To avoid confusion, let me write it in lowercase. Yes, our server is started. Well, how to know our server is started? Again, the terminal, if you remember the terminal, right? From here, if you remember the terminal, to find out if your server is actually started or not, write node and the name of your file, which is index.js. Node file name. As you can see, my message server started at port 8080. Where is this message coming from? It is coming from here. And if you can see this message, that means your server is listening on the port 8080. That means, voila, our server has started. npm start is for front end, Shubhadeep. It will not work here. The command here is node. npm is for React. No need, Shubhadeep. Node works just fine. No need. That will be required in advanced configuration. Hi, Hemu Soni. But, well, the question said what? Establish connection between node server, which we just created, and MongoDB. Node and MongoDB. Well, this is our node server. Where is MongoDB? Let's do it now. Okay. Well, if you remember, we had MongoDB and Mongoose as well. You know MongoDB very well. What is Mongoose? Well, Mongoose is known as an ODM. As you can see here, Mongoose is an ODM. That's what the proper definition is. Object data model, if I'm not wrong. Let me tell you a simpler definition. Mongoose is a tiny wrapper that helps us easily connect our node to MongoDB, that helps us write shorter and more English-like commands in MongoDB. Mongoose will help us to connect node, and Mongoose will sit in between. That is why we installed Mongoose as well. If you want to know the definition, it is an object data model or something like that. If you want to know more about it, you can go to the website mongoosejs.com. Object data modeling. Yes, object data modeling is the full form, ODM. Without it, you will have to write longer codes, longer queries, longer business logic. Mongoose helps it shorter everything and more English-like. That is why Mongoose has become a standard when we are working with MongoDB. Well, we are not working with MongoDB or Mongoose as of now. Let's do that. Import Mongoose from Mongoose. That is because we are now using Mongoose. Okay. To connect node server with Mongoose, we have a very small and cute function called connect. Now it takes a URL. Where will the URL come from? Well, if you go to MongoDB Compass or Mongo Shell, whichever, let me show you the command. Yeah. If you go to your Mongo Shell, Mongo Compass, and if from there you can use this copy connection string. Also, if you are using the plain old command prompt, let me show you how that works as well. Mongo sh. Well, here, yes, वो something मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको. Well, this is your Mongo's connection URL. If you can see it, this is what you want. Only this thing, not the rest of the part. Connect will take this. However, if you remember, we are using env, right? Just like I did not want the world to find out which port I am using, in the very same way, I do not want the world to find out where my MongoDB is. That means this will go into the env, MongoDB, and this. Well, these names can be absolutely anything. Plus, they do not have to be in uppercase. They do not. It is not a requirement. It is just a convention. Now, inside mongoose.connect, what I will do, process.env.mongodb. लगाएंगे सुबोधीप, don't worry, we'll get to that. Guys, it is interesting or not? Many of you, I believe, must be learning Node for the very first time. Tell me if it is interesting or not so far. Now, I want to know whether my connection is successful or not. How can I do that? Well, let me show you how. Once this is done, I will ask the node server to tell me that once this is done, then once this is done, then show this console. Connection successful. If I go to my terminal again and if I see this message, that would mean that yes, we have successfully connected to MongoDB as well. Well, let's go. CLS, again the command node and file name. Can you see both the console log statements? I'm sure you can. Yay! That means we have connected with MongoDB as well. Yes, Shubhodip, we have to run again. We are not using NodeMon. So in Node, after every change, we have to write this command manually. Yes. Well, this was a very simple guide on how to connect your Node server to MongoDB. We have successfully done that. What does that mean? Now we can add books, add users, modify books, delete users, modify users, add borrowers, and make connections all from this VS code only. What we were doing till yesterday in the MongoDB shell, whether in Compass or in command prompt, all of those we can now do right in our code base. Because we are short on time, we won't be doing all of that, but yes, we will be doing some of that. Let's go into the notepad again. What have we done so far? We have done these things. Oh, actually it is 4. We have done these. Now it's time to do this. Well, in the second or third day, we had a topic called data modeling. Someone asked what data modeling is, why are we not creating models? I told you that day that we will be creating models when we'll be working with Mongoose. Well, today is that day. Let's do it. So we already have 3 folders. What we want a schema. Now, what exactly a schema is? Schema is a fancy word for structure. We want a structure for books. We want a structure for authors. We want a structure for borrowers. We already have collections. If you remember, we already have these 3 collections. Let me once show you. Refresh database. As you can see, library, we already have these 3 collections. Right? What does schema mean? The schema will tell us what will be the structure of the document inside books. Author schema will tell us what will be the structure of the data inside authors, and same for borrowers. Schema for books will tell us how many fields there will be in the documents, right? What will be the data types of each of those fields? Similarly, the schema for author will tell us what will be the structure of that database, how many fields, what will be the type, and same will be for borrower. So we will be creating three schemas for three collections. How many collections? That many number of schemas we have. Let's do this. So we already have collections. We want schemas. Anything that is related to database in Node is handled in the model. In Node, that is handled in the model. Since we want three schemas, we will be creating three models. That is, we will be creating three separate files for books, for authors, and for borrowers. Yes, Shubhodeep. Books.js, authors.js, and borrowers.js. You can name it whatever you want. Now, I'll be doing two things here. I'll be creating a schema and I'll be creating a model. Let's go. Everything will be coming from Mongoose, hence Mongoose. New Mongoose schema. Schema is a class. That is why we are using new. We talked about validations a little in our first or second class. Well, you'll understand about validations right now. What do we want in the database for books, or what fields do we want for books? That is what will be defined here. So we already have that. Let me see which fields do we want. For books, this is what we want. Let me copy it, then we'll discuss about it. This is what we want for books. What do we want? We have underscore ID, title, ISBN, publication date, genre, author ID, which will be coming from different database, or so from different model, author model, available copies, and total copies. Well, let me tell you something interesting. We don't have to manually create underscore ID. It will be created automatically. So this is what we want in the schema or structure. What these are? These will be the field name. If you remember, we created them manually on day 2 and 3. No, it is not. It is not. Subhadeep, I just removed it. These will be the field names. And these are the validations. Let me store it in a variable. You can name it whatever you want. I'll call it books schema. Since we are into Node, our work is not finished. We'll be creating a model out of it. And that model is what we'll be using to add book, to remove book, to do everything with books. Books model, mongoose dot model. It will take two arguments: a name, which can be absolutely anything. Let me add book, and the schema, which we already have by the name of book schema. I've written export. What does that mean? That I will be using this variable outside of this file, so that for that export this so that it can be used outside of this very file as well. Well, this is how you create a model in MongoDB. Well, let me copy and paste it. We have three files, na? Let me copy it for author. But yes, we need different schema for author. Let me copy and paste that. This is the schema for author. Let me copy that. Let me remove this one. And we don't need ID explicitly. Let's remove that as well. This is what we are after. Let's change the name to author model. Oh, let's change the name to author as well. There you go. Right. Let's copy this. Let's go to borrower. Wherever we have author, let's make that borrower. There you go. Now we need to change this. Let's change this to, we already have that. There we go. And we don't need ID. Let's remove that. As you can see, all three had similar kind of code, right? What did we just create? We created three models. That means now we can do the CRUD operations right from our Mongo news node server. We can do all the CRUD operations on books, authors, and borrowers right from our node server. We don't need to go explicitly to the Mongo shell, either in Compass or in command prompt. But first, these three models have, because we exported them, we need to import them. Let's try and import them in our index. Import. First, let's import the book model. Import books model. Right. Import, we have author model. And import, we have what? Borrower model. Okay. Actually, because we are creating on MVC pattern, we will import these files, just not here. If some of you are getting confused that what are we doing actually, just stay with me. We also have a folder routes. We also have a folder routes. Let me create a file route, R-O-U-T-E, route.js in it. I've called a function express router in this. What this will do, you will understand in a minute. Let me write it, then I'll explain what I'm doing here. Okay. So I've written router.get, router.post, router.delete. What these are? These are route. हिंदी में इसे हम कहते हैं रास्ते जहां हम जा सकते हैं, where we can go, where we can navigate. We have three roads in front of us where we can navigate. Each of us will take to a different location. That is why these are known as routes. That is hence the folder name routes. Whenever we'll take this road, we will get all the information of all the stored books. Whenever we'll take this road, we will add a book to our database. And whenever we'll take this road, we will delete a book from our database. Let me write it in the comment. This will do this. This will do this, and this will do this. Right? I am sure you must be finding it interesting. If not, well, do let me know. But these are only routes. Let me go back to our index.js. Let me import the route here. Import. Oh, we did not export it. Okay, we did not export it. We'll export this variable. That is why it was not showing there. If I go back again, import router. See, this hint was not coming there before. Import router. There. Among people from Let's Upgrade will answer your question. Well, Shubhadeep, you will find it interesting. In React, the extension wasn't necessary. Well, in Node, the extension is necessary. This will not work. You have to make it like this. Extension are necessary in Node. Okay. Now, please guys take a look here what I have written on line 13. App.use router. What I have told my Node server is use this router for all incoming requests. Use this router, or let me rephrase it, redirect all the roads that the user can take to this particular junction. Whenever user want to go anywhere, lead them to the router so that user can decide, okay, these are the 3 routes that I can take. If you are getting confused, guys, stay with me. All will make sense in the at the end. So what I have done till now is we have created the server, we have connected with MongoDB, and we have created 3 models: books, author, and borrowers. That means we can do 3 type of operations for books, authors, and borrowers. Now, we have also defined that user can take this route, and this route. Let us assume user will take this route. That means the user wants to create a book. Well, the second argument here means a function. That means whenever user wants to take this road, this particular function will be executed. But where is this function? Well, that is where the controllers come in. These functions, they will be created in the controller. Just like we created 3 models, author, books, and borrowers, let me create 3 models. Let me create 3 controllers. Authors, books, and models. Yes, it can be of the same name. That does not matter at all. Right now, we are not doing anything for author and model. We are doing for book. Well, when the user will take this route or this route, they will be met with these functions, or in other words, these functions will be executed. Where will these functions lie? These functions will lie in the book controller because they are related to books. That means in my book controller, first I would do something like this. Then I'll export a function by the name. Okay, where is it? get books and create books. Let me create those for you. Get books and very similarly create books. Well, the third one will also come from book only, delete book. Let's create that as well. Delete book. Actually, it create book or books. Create book. So it is create book here. We are exporting these three because they will be used in a different file. So yes, of course, if you have exported them, they will be imported here. So import function get books, comma, create book, comma, delete book. You can see everything is connected here. Well, yes, whenever someone will take this road, this function will be executed, but there is nothing inside this function, right? Let's do it. Let's write something in here. Well, all these three functions will accept the same two arguments. Oops. The incoming request and the outgoing response. You can name them whatever you want. However, their work will always be the similar. The first argument will have the incoming request to these functions. Whatever response they will send, that will be sent from the second variable. You can name them whatever you want. Their functions will remain the same. This will be the incoming request. This will be the outgoing response. Okay. So to create a book. Now, if you remember, we created a book model, right? It was something like this. If we want to create a book, that is, if we want to add something to the books collection, well, first we created a schema, right? The data that we will pass first has to be validated with this schema. That is, Node will make sure whatever data you are passing, it has title and it has the same data type as this. It has an ISBN with the same data type. It has a date with this data type, and so on. To do that, let me do something here. I've imported books model. Well, what I have done here, whatever data we will be having, it will be coming from request. Okay, it's request. So request dot body. What this request dot body will contain? It will contain the new data. It will contain the data for the new book's name, its publishing date, its author, and all the other information mentioned here. Author ID, available copy, total copies. That's it. By writing this line, I'm telling my server, validate this data. Validate this data against this schema. If the data passes the validation, a new object will be created, which I have named new book. All I need to do now is this: new book dot save. Save is a mongoose function which will save the data as a document in the MongoDB. Well, it is as simple as that. However, in order for save to work, because save returns a promise. Now, if you know what a promise is, it is fine. If you don't, just follow along. I have written two keywords that will make my function work: async and await. Well, these are necessary for promises to work. If you know them, fantastic. If you don't, well, it is fine. Let me show you. Right now, we don't have anything in the books. As you can see, documents 0. Let us add a book and see whether this is working or not. Well, I forgot to write two lines here. Let me very quickly write them. Well, everything is formatted, Subodhi. Which file you think is not formatted? Might be I have zoomed it. That is why you are unable to understand it that much, but everything is formatted. Yes, don't worry. These two lines will help us add data to our MongoDB. These two lines are just there so that we can add data to our MongoDB. Okay, how can we add data to our MongoDB? Thank you, Subodhi. If you wanted to add data from a form, you will have to create a front end. We don't have any forms right now. You can still test whether your server works, whether your API works or not. Yes, Shubhodeep, that is what I'm opening here. You can use a tool known as Postman. It is a very fine tool. It is an Indian tool only. You can use this tool. It is used worldwide. Well, our server was running on localhost and on port 8080, right? We set it up like this. Let me go to the Postman. Let me zoom it so that you guys can see it. Let me change it to post http localhost 8080. Yes, Subodip, the people who created Postman are Indian only. If you remember, I wrote something which looked like request.body. Now, where will this body come from? This body will come from here. In body, let me go to raw and let me write it out. Now, what I'm writing here must be validated, must be as it is, as we have mentioned in here. That is, we want a title, ISBN, publication date, these, and these. Oh, but for that, we will be needing an author, and we don't have an author. Okay, it's all right. It's all right. Let's see. Good evening, Deepak. Well, if you have joined now, we have joined a little late. Title. Let's add a book. Harry Potter. Well, we can write anything for ISBN. Publication date. Let's write today's date only. Okay, it will be a date. That would mean date and time. Genre. Harry Potter is a fantasy. Now that there comes the problem, we do not have any authors as of yet. Let me try and pass something here. Object ID. Okay, we don't need the object ID actually. Let me pass something. We'll take a look at कि ये चलता है कि नहीं. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. Let's say we have this many copies available. Oh, available copies, let's say, are only 100, and we have total of 1000 copies. Oh, while writing this, I forgot that we needed to add another line. The save response dot send book added. Well, we needed to edit this line so that we can see whether a book is added. When the book will be added, you will see this message in the prompt box. Yes, Subhadeep, doing that. Don't worry. Module not found. Which one? Books. As you can see, extension is mandatory. Extension नहीं है, error आ गई. Well, that happens. Okay, और किसमें नहीं लगाया? Let me check again. I think, okay, here it is fine. Okay, books.js. Where books.js model. Okay, we don't need actually these. Yeah. अरे अच्छा तीनों में करना पड़ेगा ना. Okay, well, these things happen. 1 second, give me 1 second. There you go. Okay, इसमें ठीक है. Fantastic. Models books.js, models books.js. Okay, for the time being, let's make it a string only. Let's make it a string only. And let's make it a string only string. Yay! Let us now see what is happening. If I send this now, we are getting an error. Let us solve that error. So you can see book validation failed. Well, let's check. Where did we go wrong? So the data that we sent didn't pass this. Okay, it might not have passed because of the date. Yes. The date has to have been in a specific format. For the time being, let me put it into string only so that we can pass date in whatever format we choose to. Guys, can you see the book added here? So our book is added. Yippee! And if I go into MongoDB now, if I refresh our servers, okay. Arey yaar. What has happened is our book has gone into the test database. Our book has gone into the test database. What has happened? We forgot. Well, Subhadeep mentioned it as well. We forgot to add which database we want to send the book to. Well, you can do that very, very easily by changing this MongoDB tool in the env. All we need to do is put our database name here, library, and we are set. If you can restart our server, if I add the details again, book added, and if I go to my MongoDB and if I go to my correct database, which is library, There you go. Now you have a book inside it. Well, this is what I wanted to show you. This is how we actually work in real life. We connect our MongoDB to our servers, and then we work from our servers, whether we want to add data, delete data, modify, or fetch the data. We can fetch this data to any front-end server. It can be in HTML, it can be in React or Angular or anything. We can delete books by clicking buttons in our front end. Well, this is what happens when we click buttons in our front end. The books are deleted from the database, the books are added into the database, and books are modified from the database. Guys, this was a very small introduction to this world of programming with the help of MongoDB and today Node as well. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you want to learn more, please refer to some tutorials. We will be having tutorials here on this very channel as well. So please stay tuned, please subscribe. If you like today's lecture, please give a thumbs up and like. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vaishnavi. Thank you, Drishti. सबने ही लिंक भेजे हुए हैं मैंने देखा